I'm Lainey Hoffman, and today I'll be presenting Gary Ridgway. Gary Leon Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer, was born on February 18, 1949, to his parents, Mary and Thomas Ridgway. He was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and was the second out of 3 sons. The Ridgway family was not particularly rich. They were the opposite. They lived in a deprived neighborhood. The Ridgway family moved from Utah to Washington when Gary was 11 years old. Gary was not an intelligent person. His IQ was an 82, making his intelligence below average. As soon as Ridgway finished high school, he went to Vietnam. Some precursors from his childhood was that he was involved in countless violent arguments with his parents, especially his mother. When Ridgway was in his early teens, he would often wet the bed, which is often a precursor of a psychopath. And his mother would make fun of him for it, which later led to his deeper resentment towards his mother. Gary Ridgway found himself having a mix of 2 feelings towards his mother, a sense of sexual attraction and a sense of anger. Because of these precursors, his childhood behavior reflected problems to come in the future. After high school, at the age of 20, he went into the military. He served 2 years in the U.S. Navy. After those 2 years, he settled down around the Seattle area. In Seattle, he worked as a truck painter. He kept this job for 30 years. During those 30 years, he married 3 times and had a son. Start off the section about his crimes. Gary Ridgway pled guilty to the murder of 48 people. He pled guilty to murdering 48 women ages 15 to 36, with a few Jane Does in there as well. He confessed to 71 murders, but the list could be as high as 90 women. The first victim was Wendy Lee Cofield. She was 16 years old. She was last seen alive on July 8, 1982, leaving her foster home. 7 days later, her body was found in the Green River. Over the next 2 years, Ridgway went on to murder more than 40 other women. The bodies were found in the Green River, which is where Gary Ridgway got his nickname, the Green River Killer, from. Some of these women were kidnapped or killed on holidays and even their birthdays. There are still women that were originally listed as victims of Ridgway that he did not admit to. As we know by now, Ridgway targeted women. This was definitely because of his relationship he had with his mother. He would kidnap the women and murder them in his house, his truck, or the woods. Most of the murders took place from 1982 to 1984, but the murders went on for about 2 decades. Gary Ridgway expressed in interviews that he liked to use strangulation on his victims. He said that he was good at it, and that is how most of his victims died. Details of his murders include luring in prostitutes or runaways. He admitted to using a picture of his son to get the women to trust him sometimes. Then he would take them to the location of his choosing and rape them, strangle them, and then necrophilia would take place after. After he murdered them, he would dump their bodies in the Green River by apple trees, the side of highways, or even burying them in playgrounds. He was arrested on multiple occasions. Once in 1980, when he was accused of choking a prostitute, he admitted to this, but said it was self-defense because he claimed the prostitute bit him during sexual intercourse. In 1982, he was caught with a prostitute in his car that was later identified as one of the victims. In 1983, one of the prostitute's boyfriends said that he last saw her get into Ridgway's truck. In 1984, he was arrested for trying to solicit a prostitute that was actually an undercover police officer. On this occasion, he agreed to take a polygraph test and he passed it. After this occurrence, his murder slowed down. Because of all of this, Ridgway was put under surveillance, where the police searched his house and found pieces of evidence from sites where women were found from Green River killings. This time, his hair and saliva samples were taken. This is how he got caught. Now moving on into his trial, Gary Ridgway pled guilty to the murder of 48 women so he could avoid the death sentence. So in 2003, he helped police officers locate the rest of the bodies of the women killed. He was sentenced to 48 life sentences with no chance of parole. Another serial killer actually helped with the capture and arrest of Ridgway. While Ted Bundy was awaiting execution, he told investigators that they should go to a previously dug grave of one of the victims and wait for Ridgway to come back and engage in sexual activity with one of the corpses. This is known as necrophilia. Now, Gary Ridgway, aka the Green River Killer, is alive in maximum security prison in Colorado, where he will live for the rest of his life.